Welcome to this explainer. I want to kick things off by asking you a very direct question. Honestly, can an ordinary Kenyan really get justice if they don't have money, power, or the right political connections? Right? It's a heady question for sure, but it's one that sits right at the heart of our society.
It's a genuine, everyday frustration that so many citizens feel. There's this widespread, lingering belief out there that justice often depends entirely on who you are or maybe who you know. And the stakes here, they're absolutely massive. We are talking about the final line of defense for the ordinary citizen. So, what does the law actually say about leveling this playing field?
Okay, let's dive into this. We're looking at the promise of justice, which you'll find right in Chapter 10 of the Constitution.
So, the judiciary is basically the system of courts established by the Constitution. Its core job, to interpret the law, settle disputes fairly, and above all, protect your rights. But you know what's truly fascinating here, and what you should really take away from this? It's Article 159. It explicitly states that judicial authority actually derives from the people. Yeah, you heard that right. The courts are simply exercising this power on your behalf. They're specifically designed to protect citizens from those exact frustrations we were just talking about.
Let's ground this whole abstract concept in everyday Kenyan reality. You see, the judiciary isn't just for high-profile politicians. It handles the very real disputes that affect ordinary lives. I mean, if someone grabs your land, if there's a disputed election in your county, if you're the victim of a crime, or even if a family dispute just really needs a legal resolution, these are all handled by the courts. Whether you're a student, a farmer, or running your local biashra, the courts are meant to be your ultimate referee.
Let's move to the structural framework of the Kenyan court system and see exactly how these courts actually work. Let's just climb the ladder of the court hierarchy here. It starts right at the foundation with the subordinate courts. And here's a crazy fact for you. These magistrates' courts handle over 80% of all legal disputes in the entire country. That's massive. Then, alongside those, you have the Kadhis courts from Muslim personal law. From there, you move up to the High Court, then the Court of Appeal, and finally, the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court. So, simply put, the lower courts handle your daily, everyday disputes, while the higher courts take on the major constitutional matters and national appeals.
Now, the Constitution also specifically mandates Parliament to establish specialized courts at the High Court level. These are built to deal with highly critical, very specific Kenyan issues. Think about employment and labor relations to protect workers' rights, or issues dealing with the environment, or resolving those really complex land titles. Having dedicated courts just for these matters, it really shows an understanding of what truly impacts the daily lives of Kenyans.
But look, for any of this to actually matter, we have to talk about judicial independence and basically protecting the courts.
And this brilliantly illustrates a really powerful constitutional guarantee from Article 160. It says, in the exercise of judicial authority, the judiciary shall not be subject to the control or direction of any person or authority. Think about that for a second. This means judges should never, ever be controlled by politicians, by wealth, or by powerful individuals. Their decisions have to be based entirely on the Constitution and the law. No exceptions.
So how do we actually guarantee that judges remain independent? Well, enter the Judicial Service Commission, or the JSC. The JSC is an independent body explicitly designed to protect this exact freedom. They're the ones responsible for recommending people for appointment as judges. They handle the discipline of judicial officers, and they ensure the whole process is transparent and competitive. By keeping the hiring and the firing of judges away from direct political control, the JSC basically serves as a shield for the courts.
The Constitution goes even a step further to protect the courts financially, and it does this through the Judiciary Fund. Administered by the Chief Registrar, this fund ensures the courts actually have the money they need to operate. The law even states that a judge's salary cannot be reduced to their disadvantage while they're in office. Now, why does this matter so much? Well, if a government could just threaten to cut a judge's pay or totally defund the courts, they could easily influence legal outcomes. So in short, financial independence equals judicial independence.
Now, we have to shift our focus to the challenges to justice and the somewhat stark reality on the ground.
There is a pretty heavy contrast we need to address here. On one side, we've got the constitutional promise from Article 159, right? It says, justice shall be done to all irrespective of status, and justice shall not be delayed. But then, on the other side, we have the everyday reality. Far too many Kenyans face incredibly expensive legal fees, cases that drag on and are delayed for years, and persistent fears of corruption. So there's this deep, genuinely frustrating friction between the ideal laws written on paper and the actual on-the-ground experiences of ordinary citizens. Just think about a small land case stalling for years because of system delays. Sometimes it literally feels like generational wealth is just locked in a filing cabinet somewhere, gathering dust. That causes immense financial and emotional suffering for a family or a Bishara owner whose assets are completely frozen. And think about high legal fees that literally price citizens right out of their own constitutional rights. Then, when corruption fears enter the picture, the ultimate casualty is public trust. Because if people believe the powerful are treated differently, faith in a fair outcome just completely evaporates.
So, the crucial point is why it matters. Let's look at the real-life impact of this entire system. Basically, without a strong, independent judiciary, your constitutional rights mean very little. They really just become words on a page. Without this independent line of defense, abuse of power and corruption are just allowed to grow unchecked, and leaders are simply not held accountable. And the entire country feels that impact in their daily lives, in the safety of their property, and in the security of their businesses. The courts are supposed to be that final barrier between a citizen and injustice.
Which brings us to a rather provocative final question for you. Do you trust the Kenyan justice system? Do you feel that justice in Kenya still depends on money and influence, or do you actually believe the constitutional safeguards are working? I would absolutely love for you to drop your thoughts in the comments so we can get a real conversation going. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our next explainer, where we're going to be breaking down public finance and showing you exactly where your taxes really go.